Welcome to the new Overlords Podcast, a video game show where I'm joined every week by someone who takes the high road, who rises above it, an overachiever, if you will. It's Sema. Hello there, Sema.
Hiya, Max. How's it going? Oh, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Did you go back to Avowed, and did you cheat after all?
I did. But before I tell you all about that, just to really pound the joke home, Sema goes above it, but we're going to talk about Undermine. Get it? Because Undermine is below it all.
You think you need to explain more?
That makes it funny. High road, and she's over. Sema's over. Undermine is under. So that's where that is. But Avowed. Yeah, so we talked about Avowed last week. Avowed, and this is what happens. I have less fun playing the game to prep for the podcast, which you could expect. You know, that's kind of what happens. So I'm playing the game to prep for this podcast. I'm trying to push a little bit so I can see more of it. I wanted to see a couple of the companions. So I'm doing that, and it's a less fun way to play. But then after we talk about it on the podcast, then I'm like, you know, this still sounds really fun. I want to go play this game more. So I did. I went back to it. And I know I told you last week, I felt like, especially when I was pushing through the way I was, that I was putting myself in a position where it was very difficult to readjust and to try different things and to go back and get a different weapon. And I wanted, in particular, to change from the book and wand, which is like spell casting, plus the wand which is like a sort of just like a magic gun. And I wanted to actually switch to a pistol. Well, I was able to do that. And the way I was able to do that was almost being completionist in the first zone. So instead of pushing through and actually getting into the second zone, I took my first steps into the second zone and started in there, and things were really hard. I went back to the first zone. I did a bunch of the side quests. I didn't even do them all, but then I also did just these random bounties you can do. I gathered a ton of different crafting materials for the upgrades. I got myself a gun. I got myself a better gun, a named gun, a pistol. Then I got myself a third pistol that I didn't like that was named and special, and I upgraded it. And then I was having a bunch more fun with it. So it's still fun. And if I'm surprised. It's usually when I break off from an RPG because I, thinking about other things or doing other things, I tend to want to go back to it. I still want to go back to Star Wars Outlaws, and I haven't. But I've sat down a couple times. In fact, I sat down today and launched it. I didn't actually play because I got distracted by work, but distracted by work. But I want to keep playing Avowed. It's good. It's a fun game. And now I am ready to go to the next zone, which I'm excited for. And I've got a really nice gun that I like. I got this other gun that was it has an electric shock effect. But there was a bug, so I'm not using that gun. And supposedly it is a bug, and it's not supposed to do this. But I was fighting this pirate and in the water, and I shot it, and it made this patch of electricity in the water, so it's shocking the pirates and whatever. We get done with the fight, and one of my two companions at the time I've got Kai and Marius. So Marius walks through the electricity, and he starts getting shocked. So then he walks over by me, and I start getting shocked. So I'm trying to run away from Marius. I'm like, get away from me, bro. Wait till the shot goes away. And then Kai, the other companion, walks next to Marius, and Kai starts getting shocked. And then they start bouncing it back and forth and transferring it back and forth between each other infinitely. And it would never go away because they'd keep refreshing it on each other. So I'm like, oh, great. Now what am I supposed to do? So I actually had to go back. I closed the game and reopened it. It's saved where I was and reopened it. And it saved the electric shock state, so it kept going. So I had to go back to a previous save just before the fight, do the fight again, and not equip the new gun. so they didn't shock each other. So I'm using my other pistol that I got right before that one, which is really good. It's just as good. It just doesn't have the shock effect. It's got a bleed effect, which for me works better. But yeah, I'm having fun with it. Probably still going to do a little bit more. It's a good RPG. And it's what I want. So that is cool. Oh, that does remind me of a little bit of rant. I know people are like, what's next? What are they going to add to the game? What are they going to do for it? And I know we said we would do less rants. So this is a little bit less, but I did notice on Thursday multiple people when we were streaming were saying they wanted more rants. So it's not really a rant, but it's a little commentary. And I thought up a good metaphor or allegory or a good comparison. I was reading Reddit and there was a thread about Starfield and somebody in the, a couple people were commenting in the thread, man, when was the last time they released something? It's been months. It's been a couple months now and they haven't released any more DLC. What is up with this game? How can they do this? Can we even get a roadmap? And I thought in my head, I was like, hey, it was about 18 months ago. I took my family to see that D&D movie, that Dungeons and Dragons movie with Chris Pine. It was great. I paid about $50 to take my family to that movie. And I beat the movie. I consumed the content in 2 hours. And here we are 18 months later, and there's no free DLC off of that movie. There's no, can they even give us a roadmap? No.
Right.
How about...
I don't know. Yeah.
How about you paid for the content? You enjoyed the content. You played the hell out of it so much that you got to the end of all of the content. And I bet you it was more than the 2 hours of the $50 movie that you might have gone and seen. But for some reason, we can't allow game studios to just make a game and put a game out. Everybody demands, and this is why you get live service games, because everybody demands, if I buy your game, if I pay you the $25, $30, $50, $70 for some of these new games, then you're beholden to me for the rest of my life to continue to produce content for me, correct? That's the social contract we have nowadays, right? And it's not. It's not. They're fine. It's good. And if they do something else, if they add on, well, great. That's really nice of them. But that's not... It doesn't have to be that way unless you're paying for a live service, in which case it does. But don't say, I hate live service. I don't want that. I don't want to pay for DLC. I don't want to pay for live service games. And I want you to work for me forever. You can't have both. Right, Sema? Yeah. Okay.
Well, yes.
You can say no.
There's a certain percentage of humanity to which the world is there for them, and they can't consider anything outside of that. So I think your use of the word "everybody" is misleading.
Absolutely. It was a couple. It was only even this. It was only a couple people on the one Reddit thread. So, but it did make me roll my eyes at those 3 people.
I mean, case in point, Monster Hunter Wilds.
Yes, which we will be talking about.
It's got a ton of bad reviews, but people bought it
and love it and are playing it and are having a good time with it. And most people are.
So more people bought it than gave bad reviews is what my point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't please all of the people all the time. But speaking of that, let's get into the news.
Good news, everyone.
Don't focus on that small percentage.
Right. Unless you have a really good comparison that you want to get out there that you thought of, then you can focus on them and tell a story about movies. Steam Next Fest looked pretty good. I got distracted by work and worked about 40 hours in 4 days doing stuff. So I didn't play a lot of them, but a couple of these I have played before. One in particular that I wanted to call out and give a shout out to was, I forgot the name of the studio again, but it's Rift of the Necrodancer by Brace Yourself Games. And I talked to them at PAX a couple times. Even for our Behind the Games podcast, we almost had an opportunity to interview them because I talked to one of the studio leads and I talked to some of the developers. Pretty great group. Pretty fun group, and it looks like a pretty fun game. So shout out to them. That's a good one. Did you see anything else in this list that you wanted to make sure that you went and played? Oh, there's that one other one that we talked about. Why don't you mention that? I'll bring it up here. The live one.
Oh, right. That you mentioned. Yes. I actually missed that. I didn't realize it was it was done with live actors. That's kind of an interesting concept and wild.
Yes, it is wild. So this is, here it is, Love is All Around, Echoes of Yesterday. It looks like a Japanese game, and they all live filmed actors, and it's like a dating sim. So you talk to these 4 girls, but then there's a couple of your buds in there, your pals. It seems like from a male point of view. And it's a dating sim, and I guess there's like the good ending and bad ending where they can like reject you or be mean to you. And then there seemed at least one of the endings where you get to like just go off and hang out with your bro and just forget the girls and go have fun with the guys, which I thought was pretty hilarious. But I didn't know, is this a whole genre where you're in live filming, and depending on your, like our choices that you make, they just go to a different scene that they filmed with real people? I don't know. Seems pretty cool.
I don't know. And who were they shooting in that scene?
It did look like they switched over to some first person shooter. And I don't know if they were like acting out the first person shooter. Oh, that reminds me. So I'll tell my little story about first person shooter story. Reacher.
Oh yeah.
Season 2 Reacher. I'm still going through season 2 of Reacher. I didn't even realize that season 3 had come out. But I kind of save shows, and this is a good show for the treadmill because it's action, right? And he's like, just ripped. Season 2, episode 6, there was a little subplot where they're like helping these people out, and there's a daughter, and they watch some camera footage, and she's playing on a Nintendo Switch. And the techie team member says, "Oh, she's playing the Switch." And and they call out Nintendo Switch. If I can find her gamer profile, we might be able to track her IP address. Not completely unreasonable, but they go back to the girl's house and they find her Xbox profile, and they bring up Xbox on her TV. And I'm like, she was just playing Switch. Was the Xbox profile? The techie lead did say, "Oh, she plays cross-platform games." So I was like, okay, all right. So a little side thing. Then she called out 3 games that the girl supposedly is playing in her Xbox profile, and they're made up games. They sound like real games. They sound actually pretty close to some actual real games. She said, "Oh, she's playing Atomic Fall, Juggle the Jungle, and Visited." And she like raised her eyebrows that she was playing Visited. Like that was some, oh, I can't believe she's playing Visited. So Atomic Fall sounds like it could be Atomic Heart or Fallout or Atom Fall. So there's like a good fake name to pick. Juggle the Jungle. There's a couple like Juggling in the Jungle. There's a couple like mobile games named something like that. So I thought that was interesting. And then the last point of that scene that I thought was amusing was Reacher is behind there, and he disses gaming altogether. He says, I can't believe people play these things. And the other 2 team members are like, the one is like, I did some consulting for one of these companies. There's a $1 billion industry. And he's like, oh, what? And then the techie girl's like, yeah, and actually you might really like some of them. You'd probably like a first person shooter. And his line, which I thought was good, was, I am a first person shooter. I was like, all right. That was pretty good. So there's,
yes. And also a little, because he doesn't shoot as much as he does other things, but still, yeah.
No, and in fact, he was doing it in this episode I was watching. He was doing a lot of hand to hand, barehanded, being very, very violent.
Usually, like there's a lot of violence in Reacher. Is that what you were going to say? Yes, that is the main theme.
Yeah, but even more than I expected. I mean, there's a lot of just like, he just straight up executes people, which, that's a little rough. I mean, his whole thing is he's like supposed to be like really, he was an MP. He was a special investigator in the military. He was like a cop. And the fact that he's like now, Judge Dredd in some of these cases, not doesn't.
Yeah, he's like his own vigilante.
Yeah. Doesn't feel as good as like his kind of like cop persona. I mean, he's very honorable in a lot of other ways is sort of his personality, I would think he should be like, even though he wants to execute people, he should be just like leaving them to the police and like, putting them in prison, that kind of thing. But no, he's just straight up executes multiple people. Anyway, yes, Monster Hunter Wilds. Now we're not talking about that. Monster Hunter Wilds does look really, really good. It looks so good that 8 million copies at least have been shown and played. And I am just blown away by what I've been seeing. And I'm not playing it. It's not the kind of game that I'm really into. And there's other things I'm trying to play right now. So the kind of game where you just like going, it's mostly like the big boss fights, and then it's learning the fight, and it's, getting the weapon and hit the weak spots and upgrade the elements so you can attack.
And learning how the combos work together, and
not fully Souls-like, but Souls games are a little bit this way too, where just a lot of it's like the big fights is what it's about.
Right. And in spite of being like a repeating game loop, it's very deep is what I hear people say in terms of the issues that they care about. And like you said, how combat works, and like you go and kill a boss and then you take their piece parts, go back and make a new outfit and weapon that kind of look like that boss.
Or cook them. There's a lot of cooking, it looks like. You fight these big monsters, then you eat them just to add insult to injury. Yeah, the animation on the monsters themselves is the part that really amazes me. And I'm just loving watching this on recordings, on streams, on the gameplay videos. Whatever they're doing in their tech, which is not only animating the skeleton and like weight painting the model onto the skeleton, but the fluidity of the animation and how the monsters themselves, their bodies are almost a fluid. I just think is great. It looks really, really good. Now you found a little bit of the notes on the downsides that people are having problems with. So much so that it was mostly negative reviews to start, and it's come back from that. But what did you see as far as that goes?
Well, I just wanted to add it first to what you were saying, which is that, yes, the monsters are amazing, but also the combat feels really good, people say, which they don't say about every game.
Yeah, right.
Anyway.
In fact, and I need to learn. I'm not that into the combat of games. I need to learn what like good and bad combat really feels like. So, I mean, I get some of it and I get what my perspective is, but I'm a lot more forgiving than a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like need to like follow somebody who's like super detailed, totally into the combat, and like, what do they really mean by how floaty it is or how solid the hits feel? I mean, I get it, but what exactly are you looking for? What kinds of timing? What kinds of, is it like the audio plus the frames plus the kinematics? Does the sword actually touch the monster? How much do you need that to be immersed in the combat? What do you mean the combat's good?
Right.
That'd be fun to dive into with some combat experts.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But yeah, it does look really good. And the performance, so yeah, you found this one performance video, and I had seen this too. This is am I going to be able to play this?
Oh, I mean, people were complaining about the performance from the beginning, and I kind of thought that it was just part of normal, like, first day complaints. But apparently it is a huge problem for the game, and I'm kind of sorry to hear that. It's not affecting everybody. A lot of people are playing it with no problems and having fun. But it isn't just a few outliers apparently that are having issues.
Yeah. Right.
And it's textures not loading fast. It's like game crashing things. It's things that are making people not play.
Right.
Which is unfortunate.
And it is still just not everybody though too, because I've been hearing a lot of people have no problem.
Right. Which makes it in a weird, I mean, I know you know this, but it makes it harder to fix.
Right. Yeah.
Because they are probably playing on the kinds of machines that the people are that aren't having problems.
Yes. Yeah. Although
And
if
I
they're
know there's
relying on that, that's
no,
easy to fix. Right.
they're not relying on that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
But
a
the
lot of people are acting like
variety out there is hard.
a lot of people are acting like, and when you read the reviews, it's sort of like there's a button they could switch to make the problem go away. Why aren't they just doing that?
Right. Which is
And
not
it isn't like that.
Right. If you're releasing just for one platform, if it's just a PlayStation game or just an Xbox game or just a Switch game, you can do a lot in terms of optimization that will help you because the profile of where you're going to operate and what the platform can handle is it's order of magnitude or 2 orders of magnitude more narrow than what you'd have to deal with for the general public.
And by general public, you mean PC.
But outside of consoles.
Right. Because in the console world, they're just way more in control. Right.
Because you talk about PC, but PC is so, is it, what chipset is your processor versus what chipset is your GPU versus are you playing on Windows or Linux or Mac for I don't know. Does anybody actually play natively on Mac these days? Yes, but are you playing on a Steam Deck? Are you playing, ARM? Is it ARM based? And things, just the wide variety of what's possible out there just makes it really, really hard to try to even test on all of that or even get close to a representative profile. But performance issues are performance issues, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's complicated because I know that there are problems in my 2 main games, which are WoW and Star Wars: The Old Republic, which are the PC is part of it, but then, like you said, everybody's different setup. But I have issues and bugs that like other people don't, and they have issues that I don't. So there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, but 8 million copies sold, and the reviews are now trending up. So. Maybe the people who got it early and had really bad problems got it out of their system, but the general population that's now had some chance to play it is having a good experience. So,
yeah, I think it looks fantastic. I would say I don't know. It's hard to make that. It's hard to click on it though if you're not sure if it's going to run well for you.
Right.
And yet 8 million people have done so. It's fantastic. Right.
That is great
in the face of a bunch of reviews. So, and it's more than they've ever sold of any other version of Monster Hunter. So it's not like just repeat buyers; it's new buyers.
Yeah, which is great. So it's
it's great, but it also says to me that either people are sort of, oblivious to Steam reviews; they buy it anyway, or they don't read them, and they have no idea they don't read them. Or they read them and they've learned how to read them.
Maybe.
And they buy it anyway.
Exactly.
No, I don't, I'm just speculating. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what it sort of indicates, unless you can think of a different thing.
No, I think that could be it. I personally think, very anecdotal, obviously, representative of one, but if I got to a game and it said mixed reviews, I wouldn't necessarily think that it was a bad game. Or, negative reviews, I would look, I would dive into it and I would look elsewhere and I would not rely on Steam reviews for the answer.
I know. It's kind of funny because if I'm buying a surge protector on Amazon and I read one review that says it blew up when they plugged it in.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't buy it.
Yeah.
But if I read one bad game review, I'm just like, eh.
Or if I go on IMDb and it's a 2-star movie, I believe it's a 2-star movie. If but exactly. It could be negative reviews and it could be a good game. So,
yeah.
Interesting. All right. To wrap up a little bit, we do have, so this is actually releasing tomorrow, Split Fiction. Split Fiction is releasing tomorrow. PC, PS, PlayStation, Xbox. It already is getting some of the best reviews of any games of the year, which is really fun to hear and really fun for a co-op game. So it's going to be interesting to see how many people can actually play this game and have fun with it because it requires co-op. But it's getting like 9 out of 10s, 10 out of 10s in early reviews from, like the major reviewers, major outlets. Now we already just talked about how reviews don't matter as much these days.
Right.
But nobody's saying anything bad about it, and just like really good things about the gameplay itself and the story and all of those elements. So that's fun.
That's an interesting point because like it's the negative reviews I'm tending to say I probably would take with a grain of salt. But when I read a bunch of positive reviews, I tend to think, oh, that might be a good game.
Right. I do too. In fact, I will have more heavily weight the positive reviews these days.
Yeah.
Because the clickbait tendency is to find something negative and harp on that.
Yeah.
So especially if there's major reviewers or major YouTubers or streamers that are saying this is really good, then I'm like, oh, then it's good. Because if there is even a whiff of stank, that people would go for the throat because you get more clicks. So that's interesting. Split Fiction tomorrow, and then so he'll be a fun one to test all of our theories, see where the reviews go. Assassin's Creed Shadows is coming on the 20th. Couple things about this that I did want to do a call out on that I'm happy about is it will be on Ubisoft Plus. Ubisoft Plus or Ubisoft Plus. I think it's just straight up Ubisoft Plus. And you don't have to have Ubisoft Plus Premium. Day one. So on March 20th, I will be playing it because I still have my Ubisoft Plus running. $18 a month, and you get all the Ubisoft stuff. So you could still go play Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. You can go play, Skull and Bones, which I know people say they don't want to, but I liked it, and I had fun playing it to try it. $18. So yes, you could say, oh, this is, it's $70. How could they charge us $70 for a game? Pay $18 and play it for a month. It's a great deal. I'm interested to see both how it plays. I don't expect to play it all the way through. Again, it's a fighting assassin game. I played a little bit, but not all the way through. I never beat an Assassin's Creed game. But it looks pretty cool. It looks pretty. I like Ubisoft. Somebody described Ubisoft games as they're like kind of like McDonald's, where yes, it's not a Michelin star restaurant, but and maybe not to the level of McDonald's, maybe like a, I don't know, like a Cheesecake Factory. Just like chain food.
But it fits the bill. Right.
And it's solid. It'll fill you up. It's solid fare. It's not bad. It's not rotten food. It's just Cheesecake Factory, but fine. All right, whatever. We'll go there.
I mean, it's kind of like Reacher. It's like Reacher isn't like world changing, but if someone says let's watch Reacher, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's like popcorn. It's it's like a popcorn movie. Really, it's kind of like a Marvel movie these days. No cinema purist you've got cinema purists that will argue that Marvel movies aren't even cinema. And that's kind of what people are arguing with this. Oh, it's just repeat. It's the same formula. They just pump these things out and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but it's good.
That's my point about Monster Hunter. People are saying the same thing, but the second clause of the sentence is the opposite. It's like, it's similar to the other ones, but it's great.
Yeah, and that's what I want.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But here they might have changed one or two things that make people decide that they get to not like it. Plus, it's also Ubisoft, which people have some valid reasons and some invalid reasons to definitely not like. And if you want to hate a game and the developers on this particular team who are real people who did work on this because of something that happened in other parts of a billion-dollar company, okay, you could do whatever you want, but you might want to think about sort of what all of the pieces are that you're putting together there. Doesn't necessarily make this particular product bad. You could say the company is bad and I'm not going to play the game because the company's bad, but that doesn't make this particular game bad.
Right.
Yeah. But maybe when it comes out, we'll see. Maybe there will be reasons to say that it's bad. So we'll still reserve judgment. We're not going to prejudge it. But if I see those first couple negative reviews, I'm going to keep on reading and still look for the positive ones too, for sure, on that game. 27th, what was that? Atom explosion or whatever the fake game was that.
Oh yeah, what was the fake game?
Now I'm thinking it was Atomic Fall is what Reacher was saying. But so 2 words, Atomic Space Fall was the fake game that they came up with. But Atom Fall is releasing at the end of the month. So that one's coming out on the 27th. And I'm definitely more interested in that one of games that are coming in March.
Well, for obvious reasons.
Because it's British. Hello, governor. That's why. And then on the 28th, Inzoi. And you asked me.
So, well, I've never heard people say Inzoi, but I also, and I don't know if this is true, but I read someone who said that in Korean, the Z sound kind of sounds like J to us. So you could even just call it enjoy. I don't know if that's true, but I like it.
That's interesting. Now it's weird.
But I don't hear anyone say that. I hear them saying enjoy. Yeah.
And it's capital, it's small I, small n, capital Z, capital O, capital I, which makes it look a little weird.
There's probably some other meaning to it that my cursory search did not uncover.
In prep for the show, you asked me an interesting question, Sema, and I wonder why, where this came from. You asked me if you could kill your Sims. Right? What did you ask exactly?
I said, does your Sims character starve if they can't get food?
Oh, yeah. Like if you're just so terrible at grilled cheese sandwiches that you set yourself on fire, and they can never get food.
Apparently, since I missed this formative experience of ever playing The Sims, you have to have money to get food, and if you don't do the activities, I guess, that generate money, I just started thinking about like what happens if your Sims character can't eat. And then you said in answer to me, I was thinking more like, I don't know, versus like survival games, or are they protected from ever having death happen? I don't know. And then you said you had read of some players like drowning them in pools and stuff like that, which wasn't really what I was going for, but yeah, I was just wondering.
Babies? There's babies in this game? I'm watching the trailer with the character creator part of it, and there was a couple baby faces. Well, maybe you can have babies. Like you have a family, I think.
Yeah.
So the reason we're talking about The Sims, if you didn't hear last week, this game is basically like, it's not The Sims, but it's basically like The Sims. It's a Sims, but like an Unreal 5 version of The Sims.
But yeah, it's a real life simulator.
Yes. Very, very high-end character creator, very realistic. The adaptive facial technology that they've got in Unreal now, very advanced.
A bunch of commentary from people who are big fans of The Sims who feel like the super realism is kind of off-putting.
Right, which I think it could be in any game that tries to go that direction.
And also they're sort of they're anti the generative AI part of it.
It does look... The more I look at it, though, the more I watch it, and the more I look at how detailed it is, and like all of the scenes and houses and clothing and characters, kind of looks good.
I know, it does.
And it kind of looks. It's not like Uncanny Valley bad. It looks pretty immersive, and as good as they're making it. So we'll see where this one goes.
When I Googled, will your character starve in The Sims? I got a bunch of threads about people saying, well, you can just go to a park and wait for an NPC to start, grilling food, or you can go into somebody's house and eat food out of the refrigerator. And apparently you can't do all those things, right? Because some things are inappropriate. Like I think I got the impression that you try to do something and the game stops you and says that's inappropriate.
Mm.
But it just made me think about life simulators in general, and I don't know. I just kind of got interested in the idea of it.
Yeah, I think it is interesting. And by those answers, it sounds to me like, yes, you can starve. If people are saying, well, you just go blah, blah, blah. Well, then what if I don't? Well, then maybe you will starve.
Right. And then also apparently there's cheats for getting money, which apparently the money is called, I lost the word, but a slang word for money.
Yeah, I forgot what it's called also, but I remember it because I had a job. I was a web developer in my time in The Sims. We remember we interviewed one of the tech leads.
I do. Yep.
For Behind the Games podcast. She was great. She was pretty cool.
You were a web developer who couldn't make grilled cheese sandwiches.
Yes. So I was making money off of my web development projects. My little sim would sit down at their PC and have to do a web development project. But yeah, he would set himself on fire every time he tried to cook on the stove. And then I'd have to buy a new stove. So it was like insult to injury that I couldn't even make the food. Now I have to get more money, do more web projects, and buy another stove because my stove burned up. Anyway, yeah. So we'll see.
Simulians.
Simulians, of course.
Yeah, that's the money.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But there's so many places this game can go in Zoe, because just reading all the additions that have been done to The Sims over the years, there was an expansion that included businesses and hobbies, and so one thing I saw was someone who would open their own little tattoo parlor. And I mean, just the possibilities are endless, right? You could just keep going forever with a game like that. And I wonder
which The Sims have.
Which they have, right? And so another comment that I saw a lot was I'm glad. I mean, I may not play this game because I don't like this and I don't like that, but I'm glad that EA is getting some competition in this field because they felt like EA wasn't trying to innovate in The Sims. But I look at the history of The Sims and it absolutely looks like they've been doing a lot there.
Yeah. Right. In terms of content, absolutely. So yes, maybe they haven't updated the graphics as much as people have wanted, but now we've got people that have a backlash against how realistic this is becoming. So maybe it was a conscious decision not to. But in terms of content, you can get the vampire, you can be a vampire and have a whole vampire subplot of The Sims and turn it into a little Vampire the Gathering little bit, or get married, or there was a pack, a cozy
have a little
pack.
Vampire baby.
Yeah. I meant to look up because our game is a little edging into the cozy games genre, and there was a cozy games pack and I think maybe it was just a few of the add-ons that they've had, the packs that they've had over the years that are sort of collected together. I meant to look and see what was in that one too.
Mom in the chat says they do die. The character does die.
Really?
I mean, do they die in pain? Do they writhe? I mean, I'm upset now.
Yeah. How traumatic is it? That's interesting. I don't remember because I didn't kill my sim. I mean, I set him on fire, apparently.
I mean, I can't tell you.
On fire.
I can't tell you how many times my characters have died in every other game.
Right.
I don't know why this is upsetting me.
Right, exactly. Because it's a life simulator. It's a simulation.
Yeah.
Do they come back if they die? Well, anyway, that's for a different show. Last one that we're skipping over because I want to get in so much more detail that I want to skip over it for now, is Jump Ship. We mentioned it last week, I think. I've looked deeper and deeper into this. Force Gaming, who I really like, and you found his video on it too, and I did watch his video, is a really good deep dive into it. The developer playthroughs on that look really, really fun. It just looks like a really interesting, fun twist on a co-op bit of a game where one person might be flying a ship. Your ship is physicalized, so a second person can get out of their seat and go run around the ship and like put out fires when things get damaged or fix up a component on the physical ship. And then a third person or a team of people might jump off of your ship in space and rocket pack and grapple over to an enemy ship and take it out, all while you're yelling at each other on voice.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, oh my God, no, just fly back around. You got to pick me up. It's about to blow up. Get a good, oh my gosh, the solar flare is coming. Everybody ready? Get in your seats. Because I guess if you go to hyper jump when somebody's not in their seats, it hurts. They might get killed. So it's like, get your seats or use your seat. All right, go. That kind of thing. Just looks like such a fun twist that a couple games have edged into. I guess Sea of Thieves is a little bit like this. I've only played sort of more single player-ish part of the Sea of Thieves stuff. But it seems like just such a really fun, get a group of people together and do a thing like this. Crazy, crazy way to play a game. So we're going to try to get into the beta. We're going to try to get in and play this game with a few people. We'll have Sema flying the ship around and we'll be putting out fires. And so
that's going to be a mistake. You know what this is making me think of, though? It's sort of like a PvE version of those other like squad games, like where you get together with your buds and you run out and kill people, Call of Duty and Halo and all those things, but it's not other people.
Right.
It's not other players that you're fighting against.
Yeah. I don't think there's a PvP version of this at this point. But yes. Oh, and it's only up to 4 players also. I think it'd be fun with even more.
I mean,
like a bigger
true.
Squad.
Yeah.
Get a squad of like 6 or 8 people in there.
From what I can tell, like PUBG, for instance, is basically you just log in with your friends and then you try to kill other people.
Yes, and you can shoot your friends too. But yeah, or PUBG or Rust. There's a lot of, which is fine. But I liked the one person might be flying the ship, one person might be repairing the ship, and one person might be doing first-person combat.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see. Yeah, me too. But I was just kind of like in PUBG, you might just like spread out. Someone goes in the barn and someone goes. Yeah, but this seems another step beyond that.
Yeah.
But I like the sort of PvE-ness of it.
Yes. Careful how you say that. All right. With that, thank you everyone out there that supports the show. It is really awesome for us. This podcast, of course, is brought to you by Garden and a Goat. Go wish list that. We had a fun thing, little social network. We've got Will, who is a intern who's finishing up his degree at Worcester Polytechnic. He did his first video for us, and we did a little bit of a spin on the usual, unveil, hey, here's a new animal to look at. So go check that out and go upvote it for Will to let him know that you appreciate his work. It's on all the social feeds, and you can find it. The video then is hosted either it's TikTok, Instagram Reels, or YouTube Shorts. Just a little thing where he's like, guys, I'm leaking some stuff. So I thought that was a fun way to go. And then I replied like yelling at him for doing it. So watch out for more of those. This podcast is also brought to you by Iacta Est, AIE, our guild, our gaming community that Sema and I play with, aie-guild.org. There's probably some fun stuff going on as we speak or tonight. Stask, who's in the chat room right now, is probably hosting something in Star Wars The Old Republic, for example. That is always fun. We've started to do more of hosting of our game night group in Star Wars The Old Republic on Thursday nights. So you could tune in to YouTube or Twitch live and see 8 p.m. Central for 2 hours where we goof off in Star Wars The Old Republic if you want to. And then, of course, thank you to everyone who is joining the show right now, watching. I'm going to have to find a way to unite the chats because I do see there's like more over here in YouTube chat that it's hard for me to see because we're streaming for the first time on both YouTube and Twitch for the live part of the show. And then it always gets hosted on YouTube after and then on Spotify and Apple iTunes and RSS and all those places too. So keep an eye out on those. And thanks everybody for helping out, making sure that's working and putting up with us, syncing it seems like our timing is all synced back up, Sema, so I think we're good there.
Yeah.
Cool. Now it's on to the main event. Listen to this.
How you doing, pal? Welcome to the best place ever.
Isn't that good audio?
Mhm.
You can actually go on Wowhead and all of the greetings and barks, they've got them all as separate audio files, and you can just
they
play
do.
them all off of Wowhead.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, that's really cool. So that was one I put together for us. I liked that one. Best place ever. Tell me, Sema, is Undermine the best place ever? I did play it, so we'll be able to talk about it in detail, but you kick us off. You tell me if it's the best place ever, and then we'll talk about some of the details.
Kind of amazing, actually. I mean, I never thought about whether or not it was the best place ever, but it is amazing in how it looks. In my mind, I compare it to the Goblin Starting Zone, which was a Goblin area that came about in Cataclysm, which was years ago. And it is so much more detailed and so much more subtle, and yet at the same time, so much more brassy.
Yeah.
It just is like how the future has happened to WoW is kind of amazing when you think about it. So visually, it's kind of stunning. Like you may not. It's got like a lot of junkyard kind of a feel. So that might not be your aesthetic, but it's it was similar to the first time I saw Ironforge. I was just blown away by Ironforge.
Yes. In terms of Vista. So, in fact, I have video of my particular, let me mute it here, of me walking in the first time. So I like actually walked back to the entrance because I like walked in. I almost started like the first little quest, like you ride in the little thing with the NPC. But then I went back out because they just did a really great job of when you come down, you're like down underground, you'd ride this drill down to the city, and then it's the vista that they present out to show you the city. It's like a round zone, but you're coming in at this one side of it, and how they present sort of like this city stretching off in front of you, and the color balance and the highlights and then the neon colors. When I first heard of what it was going to be and where we were going to be at, I was afraid it was going to just be a place I wouldn't want to even go visit because I like the outdoor zones. I like the sunny and cool looking and fantasy.
Right. The whole sort of underground thing. I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
But when I got in here and just saw what they've been able to do in the engine and how they sort of like presented that view where it opens up into the city, it's like, wow. Yeah, they did a really good job. Pushing what's possible within their engine. And they're obviously updating the engine all the time too, but they've really pushed it and done a great job. Look at the volumetric lights. There's just the spotlights into the sky, all the glow off all the neon. Even though it's garbage and junk and trash and nuclear waste, it just looks so good. You're right. Yeah. So good job them. But there's more to it than just the graphics. Audio is a big part of it too, and you mentioned that a little bit when you first got in there. Can you tell me your view of the audio?
So the music is kind of amazing. Like when you first go in there, it's different music than in any other zone for WoW, which you might think there's the same music. I mean that already every zone has its unique music, but it doesn't. It doesn't. Like the music for Ashen Vale you can hear in other zones, for instance, but this is completely different. And it's a jazz feel, and they part of it's recorded with a jazz, like a quintet, I think, but it's also orchestral. There's some, it's really different.
I
Some
think
parts
I
of
might
it
even be
I
able
love.
to play a little bit. Let me see if we can hear some of it.
It's a little polarizing because some people hate it.
But it is it's live jazz is how they made the music, which I think is just cool right there. And then they worked with the ensemble to twist it a little bit into goblin jazz, which you get that feel. And in some parts of it is disconcerting and disquieting and discordant. And you might not like it because of that, but I think you're supposed to not like it completely. It is it's the goblins, and that there's some bad stuff going on, and there's the gangsters and cartels and people killing people. I mean, there's plenty of violence.
Well, yeah,
murder going on.
As the story unfolds, it turns out the goblins of Undermine are basically fighting for their lives.
Yeah,
and their livelihood. Yeah.
Against between themselves, faction to faction with is it Gallywix? He's the main bad one, right?
Gallywix, yeah.
Yeah, Gallywix. Who is the former leader of the goblins? Is he gone or something?
I don't know.
Anyway, it's Gallywix now. Who was the goblin leader before Gallywix? Chat room, you'll be able to remind us of who that was. I think that guy's dead in previous expansions. Gallywix has been the lead for a little while now, but the war chief of the goblins was somebody different in the past. Because they even mention him as you're walking through the city. Like, oh, you were a supporter of my predecessor, blah, blah, blah. Gallywix is a bad guy. He's bad. I mean, they made that clear in the trailer video, which we talked about last week a little bit, which was quite, set up to make Gallywix seem really bad. Not only is he colluding with the main bad, the big bad of this expansion so far, which is Xalatath, in her quest to find shoes, but he's also like straight up murdering any goblins that aren't on his side and not doing what he says. And that scene was one of those typical bad guy kingpin in the boardroom scenes, and straight up murders a character. And you've tracked this down. I wanted to try to find out who that red shirt was that got murdered by Gallywix. And what did you say?
Yeah.
He was a red shirt. He was invented for this.
Yes, he was. Yes. And so the first time we meet him is in that cinematic. Then they do refer to him a couple of times afterwards.
Okay.
But yes, they didn't take one of the goblins that we know from previous years. And
Laszlo,
not
I
yet,
think is
not
his
yet
name.
anyway.
Right. Yeah, Laszlo, I think is his name, but we didn't have a previous relationship with him. Do you see my character here right now? So is this always happened now? As I went out and I harvested a weed, and now I'm wearing like a flower pot on my back and carrying my sickle, and you can't see my gun or my weapons anymore. And even if I like change it out,
Yes, there's a setting for that.
It's not terrible. It's a nice little basket on my back filled with flowers. But I was like, where's my gun? I didn't even know what kind of because I got a new gun and I have done no transmog, right? So every time I get a piece of armor so far in War Within and now in my journey down into the
And the armor itself looks pretty good, actually.
It does look pretty good. I usually don't wear helmets and that kind of thing because I've got because I don't want to hide my pretty face. And I usually don't like guns, but I figured I'm not going to transmog constantly. That's a trap. That's a gold sink right there. So I've just been leaving it. And yeah, it looks pretty good. Look, I even have a cape, and I'm very anti-cape. No capes. Do you remember?
Yes, I do.
Thundercap. Edna mode, no capes. Yeah, what's the guy's name on the back? Because that's the guy who knew Laszlo, and he does lament the loss of Laszlo, as we all do, from the cinematic. What's his name? We'll see his name over here. That is Gazlo. Is that Monty Gazlo? Monty?
Mm-hmm. So Monty Gazlo is the leader. He's the trade prince of the Bilgewater cartel.
Okay.
And there's 4 cartels that we're friendly with.
Have you
including the Venture Company, which is kind of interesting because the Venture Company in previous times had always been like, you get a quest to go kill 20 Venture Company.
Yeah.
These because they're doing bad things, but apparently we're on their side now.
Environmental terrorists. No, I mean they were just a company that was clear cutting forests for profit and stinking up the nature. So they were just like a generic bad faction that you could just go murder. You not feel bad about it because they were hurting hurting Mother Nature. But yeah, it was interesting that Noggenfogger was one of the faction leads. Who are the other faction leads?
Noggenfogger, Venture Company, Bilgewater,
and then the girl, the crazy girl. I forgot which faction is she? Because she just giggles. She only giggles in the cinematic, but it's a pretty crazy laugh. I wanted to learn more of her story. I got a real Jinx vibe off of her when I was watching the cinematic. But tell me about the faction. So if you started doing, you got to like pick one and then you stuck with that one for the week and then you do like daily quests for it. How far have you gotten into like faction stuff, and does that really matter?
Steamweedle is the fourth one. Okay. I don't know if it matters. I did pick one, but I also didn't worry about which one I picked, because this is how it went in season 1. You had to pick something to be aligned with for the week.
Mm-hmm.
In another zone, which was called Aj Kahet. And basically how it works is you did
those
a few
the threads of fate, or the cutting the threads. I just did that. I just did to get to here. I had to like I had to finish that to get to here. So I'll get to that in a minute, but yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. It just, for that week, everything you do will give you a big chunk of rep with that faction and a lesser chunk of rep with the other 3 factions. The only thing that matters really is you get a special ability when you're aligned with that faction, and it comes down to like which one you prefer.
You also get a different color skin for your car, so that's what I picked. I picked the blue because I like blue. So
I didn't notice that at all.
I looked at Wowhead and I looked down like what the differences between the factions were, and it was like blue car. I'll take that one. I want the blue car. Like one's a red car, one's a blue car, one's I don't know what the other ones were.
But over time, what I've learned with factions in general is for me, it doesn't really pay to like focus on that, because before you know it, you're exalted with all of them and you don't have anything to do anyway. So
right, that's what it seemed like. So I just picked one quick and didn't. Well, I'm not even doing much more with it at this point anyway. I'm probably going back to Avowed. But I did drive the car around, and I liked that. So describe the car, and then let's talk about the car for a second, and tell me if you like it.
In this zone, there's no flying. And instead, they give you a car which has special abilities. And I've more or less gotten used to them, because I didn't like Dragonflight that much, dragon flying, that type of flying that much when it first came out, but I do like it now. So I just kind of put that on hold and waiting to get used to it. And also I'm kind of in new zone overload right now, because if you look at the map, there's like a million gajillion quests, and then there's events, and then there's activities, and then there's like more, and I'm like, okay, I'll just play for a while.
Right.
See what comes up. And then in a week or so, when it all makes more sense to me, I'll start to prioritize maybe.
Right.
But like with the car, it goes at a breakneck speed. So it's challenging to go at that speed and get where you want to go without just passing it by. And when you're unfamiliar with the zone, you don't even know how to get there. It's like hard to look at the map and go that fast. But it's kind of cool because you can just bump into buildings along as you go, and it's not like it hurts the car or you. Yeah. So, and then I was bumping in buildings as I was going down the road trying to look at the map and figure out where to go. And then I look up and I notice there's like 2 or 3 other people just bumping along on the buildings as they go. So it's kind of funny. But I found out too, there's a talent you can take that slows down the base speed of the car. It's still fast.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit more manageable.
Gives you more control. I did see that.
Yep.
There's about 4 different slots or 5 different slots where you can swap in different, quote unquote, components to change the performance characteristics and abilities of the car. I drove the car around in the tutorial kind of like little mission, and then I took another one of the missions. You sort of like get these missions like go drive somewhere, do a thing, or go pick up a thing and then go drive somewhere to drop it off. And I ended up really liking it much more than I thought. of driving the car around. It felt good. I did really quickly, and I thought I might not, but I quickly really got the feel of the drifting. So you have to like start to turn. You start into a turn, and then it's sort of like as you're leaning into the turn, then you hold down spacebar to drift. If you hit spacebar before you're turning, you jump. So you don't want to do that. But I really got into like this person's just crashing into buildings.
Right. That's the only way I know how to stop, really.
It started to feel really, really good, like the drifting through the streets and like, spinning into and leaning into the curves and drifting around and getting a little job done.
That also restores your energy bar, so you can
do the abilities. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I remember that. But yeah, so I liked it. I was surprised I liked it so much. I also tend to not like that you lose flying every time they invent a new zone. And especially since they acted like they were leaning away from that as soon as sort of like Dragonflight came around, and now they're sort of like back to that. I think a couple percentage of the population at least were disappointed that they got to another new zone and flying was taken away again. But, you got to put some game in your game, and this seems like a little bit of a game. You got the little car, and in a way that's not annoying. I tend to, in MMOs, not like in this dungeon or in this chapter or in this, zone, you got to now get in the vehicle and do the vehicle thing. And we spent 5 minutes doing a vehicle thing. I spent a lot of time, it seems, trying to like make this work and make this feel good. In the same way that they did with Dragonflight as well. Such that these cars, I think, do feel good.
Yeah, and they're just transportation. So like if you're going to a place to do a job, then you hop out of the car and then you start doing whatever.
Yeah.
So it's, yes, it doesn't have that failing, which I hate when you have to do something in a vehicle where you're less powerful in the vehicle than you would be if you just jumped out and did it yourself.
Right. I spent all this time building my build. I've got my abilities and now I finally get to go to the dungeon, and they're like, oh, now fly around on this glider and press the 2 key to drop the bombs, and you don't get to use your abilities, and you're going to fail because you don't know how to use this thing the first time. You're going to die, and aren't you happy? Yeah, great. That's
every time we would go to Ulduar and we would have to start the Flame Leviathan fight, I would just go, oh, when is this going to be over?
Or Oculus, wasn't that the class?
Yeah.
One of the original ones too, where you had to like fly around on these weird things.
I feel like Oculus is not as, I don't know, it's over faster or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, Ulduar, Oculus is a dungeon. Ulduar was a raid, and you're driving those tanks in a raid boss fight, and you're like limited to that. That does seem rough and punishing. So, all right. So having fun with that. I didn't get too much into the story, but I did have fun with the zone. The start of the story, I did, as you said, and clued me into of what the deal was, why Xalatath got Gallywix on contract. And you do very early on realize, oh, who's the druid? So she showed up at the end of the previous zone. Some special kind, is she like a special new kind of druid?
Are you talking about Illyria?
No, the druid who's all on the black blood is terrible. I know what this black blood stuff is.
Yes, I know who you mean. Yeah.
She's pretty cool looking, and
yeah, she's like a Arathi or something. She's part of the War Within newness.
Okay. Is she are they a playable race? They're like a new thing, right? They're like special stealth druids of some kind. I don't know. Anyway, so she showed up. She's explaining that the black blood is really bad, and that's what Gallywix and his cartels, which he's forcing them to mine before you even get, as you're sort of like going through this down to get to Undermine. You're dealing with like forced labor of like him co-opting people and forcing them to mine this black blood stuff to the point where like people are dying, goblins are dying left and right, even trying to get this stuff done. And that's part of the story of how bad he's being. But Xalatath needs that to happen to fix. Well, I didn't get to this part yet. And maybe, is this too much of a spoiler now? Should we not say what she's trying to do? How far into it is
Probably,
the story?
because
Okay.
I mean we're only a week into
All
the
right. So we'll stop that. But Xalatath needs some of this stuff to be happening for a reason. She explains that in the trailer video that Gallywix needs to be fixing something. But we don't know exactly what yet. Sema told me what it is though, so I know. But Gallywix is being really mean about how he goes about making this happen, apparently. And so now we hate Gallywix. And if you want players to feel okay beating somebody up, you show that person being mean and kicking a dog, and that's what we got to see in the trailer. And so I think we're probably going to be shooting Gallywix in the face before too long. I would imagine.
Yeah, he's the final boss in the raid.
Okay, so let's get to that.
And so, yeah,
raid.
Okay.
Raid. Are you doing raid prep? Do you have
well,
homework?
the raid prep right now is to finish the story, and I have not done that yet. So.
Is that required for raid prep, or just you
no?
Expect everybody wants to?
No, in fact, the point of finishing the story is so that you can kill Gallywix next week. Because another thing they started doing with the War Within is they have a story mode version of the raid, and it's very different from the raid, and it includes only the final boss, and it's not any of the same mechanic, or not necessarily any of the same mechanics. But if you are a solo player or just whatever, for whatever reason, not a raider, you can play all the way through the story, including killing the big bad for the season, because of this story mode version, and that's going to be available next week. And you can't do that until you finish the story.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. Wow, that's an interesting mount model. I just saw some sort of like little griffin thing. So you've got to finish the stories that you can get to do the Gallywix thing.
Right.
How many bosses are in this raid?
8.
8. Okay, so it's solid.
Yeah,
Solid
that's
deal.
a lot. And then there are some things you could be doing to work on gear. So like right now, if you do your delves, you can get a chance at some higher level gear. And by higher level, I just mean higher level than what we have, right? So season 2 entry level gear is kind of straddling whether it's lower or higher than what we already have for us, since we're raiders, but will be great for all your alts and everything. But so there's a gearing issue, but that's about it. We don't have to grind faction, which we have had to do in previous times because there was a piece of gear that you needed to have. As far as I know, there's no faction grinding that we have to do. We do want to get certain currencies, so it's kind of like factions. You're going to get the currency just by playing. So I'm not too concerned about it.
So Saturday, you think you're going to get into the raid?
Mm-hmm.
On the delves, there's 2 new delves that came with Undermine. Is that what I heard?
Yep.
So when I got into this, I needed to finish the story, right? So first, this is about Thursday. I was like, I want to see Undermine. We're going to talk about Undermine next week, Thursday or Friday. I started getting into it and like, okay, let me go finish the I was only halfway through the was it Hollow Zone Light?
Hollow Fall, yeah.
Hollow Fall. It was only about 2/3 of the way through. I think I was mostly done with that. So I was like, apparently I need to finish the story because I've got nothing. I get into the game. The splash screen is like, come play the Undermine. I log in and I got nothing. It's like, nope, there is no Undermine. What are you talking about? I've never heard of an Undermine. So I figured, all right, so I got to finish the story. Not only did I need to finish the story, which then I did. So then I did all of the rest of Hollow Fall. I just forgot what you said again. And then the Spider Zone with the Widow Spider, who was a cool character, but also terribly arranged in her little zone because she's hanging from the ceiling, right? And I could never stretch my characters trying to point the camera up to see her and talk to her, and you can't. All you're seeing is the tips of her legs hanging down, and that's what you got to click on to talk to her. Like, what the hell's going on? But I did all of that whole zone. I liked that. I liked that there was this faction of the spider people, the spider men and the spider women and the spider children. I killed them all like animals. Not only the spider men. Anyway, there's some good ones, and you ally with them, and those become the 3 factions then that you sort of alluded to. Then I'm like, oh, I guess I could be doing a whole faction thing with these guys. But then I finished all of that, and still no Undermine. Hey, where's the Undermine? Never heard of it. What are you talking about? You have to be 80. So I was only 76. So I'm like, oh, crap. And so this is by the weekend. And then I was like, well, then fine. I'm not doing it. Sema can tell me about it. But then I decided, well, maybe I really do want to see it. How am I going to level up? And one of the recommendations, which turned out pretty good, was delves. Just go do delves. When you get into the delve, especially if you haven't done it before, there's a quest when you get in there. And that gives a fair amount of XP. So I just, zone by zone, what are all of the delves? I started doing them. I could do some of them at like tier 3 or tier 4. But everybody in the recommendation was, no, just do them fast. The XP is not that much better doing them in a higher tier. So for XP wise, just do them as fast. So I went down to tier 1 or tier 2. It was just plowed through them. Brand's yelling at me the whole time to go do a thing. And I liked them. I liked it. It was good. Plowed through. Some of them I liked better than others. Like there was the one underwater one I didn't like very much, just because I felt like it was really forgiving, but there was the breath meter. And then I'm like, oh crap, I gotta watch my breath meter so I don't drown. You could have just sat there and went AFK for 5 minutes and you wouldn't drown, and then just go find one of the bubbles and refill your breath meter practically. But still, I didn't like the fact that there was that timer. But it was good XP, and it got me to 80, and it got me to Undermine. So I did get the feel of the delves there, and that's where I learned about Brand being pretty good. I read some threads where it sounded like healers that just want to sit back and let Bran tank, straight up tank, can just heal him through it. It takes a while, but heal him through it, and it is a good experience for a healer that just wants to heal, which is cool.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I like having him have that. That's new, the functionality to be a tank, which when I read they were going to do that, I go, yes, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, excellent. So that is cool. So Shrimp is saying if you had the fishing pole, which I do have, why did I not think of that? I've got techniques to breathe underwater. I probably could have just done that. I think I have potion. Am I an alchemist? What am I? I think I'm an alchemist. I probably could have. What the hell?
No, if you have that fishing pole equipped, that'll do it. That's what I do. Even though I'm a druid, I could switch to underwater form anytime. And but the bubbles are convenient because they give you a little speed boost too. But
right.
I use a fishing pole. So
interesting. Anyway, I didn't even think of any of that. Well, I was going fast also. It was just so fast. It probably would have taken me more. I probably finished the delve before I would have found the fishing pole. Found a bank to find the fishing pole because I didn't have it in my bag. I don't know which one I had in my bag. I had one of them in my bag. I've gotten a lot of nice fishing poles though. Anyway, you said it's good. They're good for gear. Now I was doing them in the lower tiers, so they were not dropping that grade of gear, but I still was getting upgrades because I was getting up to level 80. By the end, when I think I hit that was basically when I was down to Undermine, I was starting to get like blue drops. But what would I have to do in terms of delves to get like nice gear now in the Undermine? What tier of delves and how hard is that?
Probably tier 7.
Tier 7? And don't they go up to 11? Do they go up to 11?
They go up to 11, yeah.
Mine goes to 11.
When you actually enter a delve, it'll tell you what the suggested gear level is, and it's very conservative. So that'll give you an idea.
Now,
but
that underwater one, for example, do I have to do that one 11 times?
No, you just have to do one of them 11 times to get to 11.
Okay.
But 9, 10, and 11 are meant to be fairly challenging, like mythic level effort.
I got it.
You probably do.
I don't know. That makes me want to get in there and do it. I think I'm only up to tier 4. I can only do the tier 4. I think is the highest I could even try to do right now.
Right. They don't. While you're leveling, they don't let you go beyond 10-4. I mean tier 4.
But tier 4 seemed pretty. I could do tier 4 without much problem. Yeah,
right.
I got this.
And that's why they let you do it.
Yeah, true.
And then when this dropped, I actually had to go back down to tier 4 also, and then go 5, 6, 7 to get back up to 8, which is where I wanted to get this week.
So explain that. Why did they do that? Why did they
I
make
don't
you
know.
go back down? And they rebalanced it, right, to make it harder?
I don't think so. I don't think it's any harder.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why they made us do that. I don't know what the reasoning was. I didn't expect it. Maybe I was just ill-informed, but I was surprised when that happened.
But you're pretty geared though, too. So maybe it's.
But I'm the exact same geared I was the week before.
Oh, right. So you're doing tier 11 and it feels exactly the same at tier 11?
No, tier 8.
Oh.
I never did. I didn't do 9, 10, 11 in season 1.
Okay. Is there a big gear difference between tier 8 and tier 11?
No, there's zero difference, which is why I was not motivated.
Oh, even better. So I only need to do tier 8 and I'll get some good gear?
So
this is how they get you.
From your perspective, though, you'll be getting good gear on your way to 8 as well, because I'm guessing that your gear is lower than what drops in Delves.
Yeah, I'm wearing green, 500s, high 500s right now.
So in this season 2, there are advantages to doing 9, 10, 11. So maybe I will, but there was only bragging rights in season 1.
What are the advantages of doing it this season? How'd they change that?
I think there's a certain currency that you need once you get heroic gear.
Oh.
And
I've seen a lot of currencies starting to drop. It was making my eyes glaze over.
So that's the kind of thing.
Are they like Valor Stones? Is that a thing?
Mm-hmm. It's
Is
like
that
that, but it's complete. It's like not. It's called
different.
Gilded. It's called Gilded Crest. So like Valor Stones are how you upgrade the lowest tier of level. Then it's like Carved Crests and Weathered Crest and Ruined Crest and Gilded Crest. So Gilded Crests are going to be available usually from.
All right, I'm tired already.
They're available from the last couple of bosses in heroic mode, and then Mythic Plus. So
back to Avowed for me.
and now grade 11 Delves.
Oh, I got to upgrade my augments in Star Wars: The Old Republic. I got to spend 1 billion credits to do that. Than worrying about my gilded crests and going to 11.
It's a lot.
12s.
It's a lot. Everything, all of it. It's like it's a lot.
But now that we've talked about this week, it's going to make me want to go play WoW and go gear up my hunter.
Yeah, you should.
All right, maybe I will. All right. Well, this has been pretty fun. It was fun finishing off the outside zones. What is that? Like the phase 1? How would you even describe that? Whatever that was. Their content is good. They make good content. Blizzard made a good expansion there. So all the solo stuff I did leading up to, all of the stuff before Undermine that they had, season 1 of War Within or whatever it was. That was good. It was good stuff. And now Undermine is good.
I read part of an interview with Ian Hazakassis where he said that having the next 3 expansions mapped out, has given them the freedom to concentrate more on each part.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so I kind of see that in this zone because there's a lot going on in this zone.
Interesting. Like room to breathe, because now they've got the arc. They don't need to worry about killing Xalatath right now. So they've got room to breathe so that they can play around more in the outside zone and the Undermine.
So in a weird way, I think it's kind of leading to a little more, I mean, you might call it depth, but I just see it as like more quests, but yeah.
So they may
the
not even have
story-
designed Xalatath's shoes yet. They've got the freedom to put that off for a bit.
And the story, even though it's a goblin story and goblins have been previously played for, I don't know, comedic
Yep.
reasons, this story shows them, basically fighting for their lives and their way of life. And it does have some, heartfelt moments. So it's good. Keep going.
Yeah. And on the antagonist side, presents it not just as, comedic relief, funny goblin to go shoot, but it's pretty villainous on that side too. So I get the feel of that. So good writing, good mechanics, good game design in terms of the graphics and the sound. So well done, Blizzard. Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that is it for us for today. This has been a fun run through. Thanks everyone for putting up with us as we've struggled through. I think our bandwidth settled down, so I don't know what Discord had a little bit of a glitch there, but we're good now. So hopefully people put up with that in the first half, and it got to the second half when we were all sort of smoothed out. But YouTube and Twitch, we may try to keep up with that. I'll see how it feels to produce it on YouTube, which I'm hoping sort of smooths out the production process to get the podcast out there. All the audio stuff is still the same, so we've got that going for us, which is nice. All of the feed and subscribe links to keep up with the show are on newoverlords.com, and our video will be up on YouTube, hopefully in a really easily seamless way, maybe even tonight. Please come chat with us on our Discord and tell us how you liked it streaming on YouTube at newoverlords.com/Discord. And you can also follow on all the social networks, and we'll keep you up to date on when we go live and when the show gets published and all of that kind of thing too. And with that, we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.